How do you create something that's different than everyone else? You do it differently than everyone else. Here at Copeland Creative, we specialize in telling captivating stories of wild people, wild things, and wild places. We don't just capture the story, we immerse ourselves in it. We are a diverse, multi-talented media house based in North Georgia, and if you have a story that needs told, we want to help you tell it.
We're live. Okay, cool. We usually do like 2 or 3 minutes. We probably won't today of like let a couple people get on. We do these live, but that just makes it easier so we don't have to edit afterwards.
I gotcha.
So don't say anything you don't want to take back because it's live. Probably should have told you that before we get started. But
yeah.
We are going to, for anybody that's going to come and watch the live earlier, this is Graham Johnston from Ambassador Track, and we're going to be talking about all the stuff that y'all want to talk about today and stuff that me and him talked about on the phone for a while. So we're going to roll into the podcast right now.
The Redneck Tech Podcast is brought to you by MikesArchery.com. They're a one-stop shop for virtually everything archery, bow hunting, and for your next outdoor adventure. Mike's Archery has been at the top of the archery game for over 50 years, and they want to give listeners of the Redneck Tech Podcast 10% off their entire online store using the code REDNECK10, all one word. Just put the code in before you check out, and your boys will hook you up. The guys at Mike's have always been good to us, and now they can be good to you too. Visit MikesArchery.com and get your gear now.
Right here. Yeah. You want it? All right, we're live, episode 188, and I have got Graham Johnston in the office from Ambassador Track. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man, it's good. I didn't know you had to sit through and listen to your own commercials on podcasts.
Yeah, well, the pros might not have to, but in our setup, yeah, you have to.
This looks pretty professional to me.
Well, it's a lot of money sitting in this room. I don't know if this is set up the most efficient way, but this is the most efficient way that we've had it set up. It's taken a lot of trial and error to get it here. We've kind of changed how we do it a little bit to make it easier for us to recreate smaller pieces of content. We used to just do like one master wide of the whole table, and we sat like long ways.
Yeah.
And it was fine, but we get lots of nuggets now. Now with some of the AI that's out there, we can pull so many nuggets of content out and make it easier for people to watch. But it's one of those things to where it just creates more work for somebody here in the office all the time. But I mean, content's what we do. So
make it as easy as possible.
Make it as easy as possible. So I want you to introduce yourself. We talked on the phone. That's kind of how we met. You reached out to me over email, and I shut you down because I was very confused. And then you reached back out, persistence, which I like. You was like, "Hey, I think we should just get on the phone and talk about this." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do that." So kind of what you did to me on the phone, and kind of give me not necessarily your sales pitch, but like what is it you do, who you are, where you're from. I want to get into it a little bit later, but we kind of had very similar starts in this whole thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of hard to talk about what we do just over email. Mm-hmm. And, I heard one of your previous podcasts. I was like, kind of want to be sitting in on that, man. Like, that's right up what we discuss all the time. So, yeah, I've started a system called Ambassador Track. It's basically an ambassador tracking and management platform for companies, not only in the outdoor industry, but any industry. But we got our start in fishing and hunting. And the ambassador, you could call it pro staff, field staff, influencer, ambassador, but anybody who's getting a product, getting free product, paid, discount, whatever it is, in order to promote a brand. These companies for the longest time had a large group of people. They didn't know how to manage them. They were giving out discounts left and right. They didn't know what they got in return. So
if they got anything in return.
Yeah, if they got anything, we do see a little bit of that. And so basically we made an automated platform where all your members, we handle everything from the application of new members coming in, pre-vetting those applications, delivering discount codes, and then tracking everything they're doing on social media. So anytime they're out there mentioning the brand, hashtagging it, whatever it may be, all that content, all that analytics, everything comes into our platform for the sponsor to be able to see. And then have some management tools for the sponsor to be able to send out like text messages and say, hey, we want you to go promote this. So just trying to bring everything to one spot to cut down the amount of time the sponsor has to spend dealing with it, but also to make everything that the member is doing more visible to their sponsor.
So it's also a tool, too, that helps an ambassador, an influencer, go to a prospective quote-unquote sponsor, say Redneck Tech. We wanted to go after Sony cameras to get some new FX6s. We would come to you. We'd say, hey, we want to sign up for your platform. It's a monthly fee. We sign up for that. You give us the analytics to what we're doing to promote and to do things for Sony, and we could take that, pitch it to Sony and say, hey, these guys are moving the needle for us, or they're doing good things for us. These are guys we want under our umbrella, correct?
Yeah,
So It kind of works both ways, on the brand side and on the influencer ambassador side, correct?
Yeah, we've been primarily on the brand side for since the beginning. We work with about 28 to 30 different brands across hunting and fishing. But just recently we launched a premium account. So we don't charge any of our members for their accounts, but members under the premium account, it would be paid. It's not much. But basically they could track themselves for all their other sponsors, real quickly generate a report and say, hey, what did I do for this sponsor over this date range? And here's a one-page PDF that even has a media value of a dollar valuation of what they did for that sponsor. So you can use it to justify what you've done for one sponsor, or you can take that information and take it to a new potential sponsor and say, hey, look what I'm doing for these guys. Here's the media value I'm generating, and then kind of negotiate your deal from there. Just rather than you having to pull all the analytics off Meta, do it all yourself, like we're able to just kind of do it at the click of a button.
Yeah. So you guys have developed some proprietary software that can do that stuff.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep.
Well, so I wanted to kind of get into, because we're going to talk about Ambassador Trek a little bit, but we're going to talk about more of a general social media and influencers and marketing and how that's affected this industry in good ways and in a lot of bad ways. And
ever changing.
And some things that we see are creating trends or doing well, not doing well, all that good stuff. But before we do that, we got started virtually about the same time in this industry. So you started in 2012, right?
Yeah, in the hunting industry, 2012. In the outdoor space, 2010. And I think I didn't tell you this over lunch, I think we both got started via a magazine we were reading.
No way. Tell me that story.
So I was in college working for my dad's company in the medical field. So I was in the operating room all the time. Just graduated college, didn't want to stay in medical, and I'm sitting there. It was around the time the FLW tour came to Lake Lanier. And I'm reading a magazine, and article came up about Jason Menninger, one of the tour pros. And it said he's got an ad agency in Beaufort, Georgia, which is like 15 minutes away from my house. So I was like, I tried calling up there, couldn't get anybody on the phone. I sent him a message first I went up there with my resume, but the elevator was keep coded locked.
Nice.
So I couldn't get up the elevator because I was just going to go drop it on his desk, being a little kind of, I guess you could say, like ballsy college kid, and so I finally sent him a message over Facebook, and he replied back, and then they let me in the next time, and I got in for an interview, and then got an internship there like 2 or 3 days a week, which then turned into me being an account person for them, and then kind of the rest is history after that.
You paid your dues, and you didn't take no for an answer. I like that.
Yeah.
That's, gosh, man, I had a kid. I did sidebar. That's very cool because I got started through a Field and Stream magazine article, but so I don't know if you'll hear this or not. Maybe you will. But there's a local high school fishing team, and I know the fishing coach. He's also a softball coach. He really, really good dude. And I was talking to him because my daughter plays on a softball team with his daughter because they're both younger. He coaches the high school team. But we got to talking about some kids that had asked for a sponsorship for the high school fishing team. And I was like, yeah, I'll sponsor you guys. And some people that I've known forever from our church. And he said, man, I've got this kid that he wants to be on the fishing team really bad. And he doesn't have a boat yet, doesn't have a captain, doesn't have a partner. But his mom has been dropping him off on the square, and he's been knocking on every business's door. He's raised way more money. He is not afraid about being told no. The kid's got initiative. Like, he wants it. And I was like, you tell that kid to come by my office. He comes by my office and he knocks on my door. I'll sponsor him too. Like, I hadn't planned on it. I was just going to sponsor these kids from my church. But I'm like, if that kid wants it that bad, and he really at this point still doesn't even have a way to do it. He just needs the money to do it. Like, send him by, I'll sponsor him too. And lo and behold, yesterday he knocked on my door. His mom drove him up here. He knocked on my door and asked and shook my hand, looked me in the eye. I'm like, absolutely. And I told that kid, I'm like, listen, dude, if you're willing to do this right now, you're willing to be told no, because I'll guarantee you've had more no's than yeses. And he said, yes, sir, I have. I said, you are going to leave these people in the dust when you get out of school.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because there's so few kids that are willing to put themselves out there, high school, college, or otherwise. Heck, adults, I know they wouldn't do what that kid was doing. To be told no, to put themselves out there, to be vulnerable, to, and this kid's can't be older than a freshman or sophomore. I mean, this kid's he's still got milk on his lips, So it was one of those things to where he was very uncomfortable. He had to ask his mom to bring him.
Mm-hmm.
But, dude, I took that kid next door to where we have all of our gear that we get sent, and I gave him everything that would fit him. I'm like, here, dude, here's T-shirts, here's hats, here's stickers, here's everything. Oh, and here's your check for the sponsorship. I'm like, and if you need anything in between, you call me. And if I can't do it, I'll find somebody who can. Like, I'll do my best to help you. And that kid was, like, super appreciative. And I got a text this morning, like, he's wearing the hat. Because he wanted me to sponsor his jersey. He's like, no, I want to sponsor your hat.
Yeah.
So I sponsored his hat for the little high school fishing team. Like, who cares?
It's something.
Yeah, so it's
to
like,
them, it's big.
Yeah, it was huge, and he's wearing the hat today at school, like
That's
every
awesome.
day. And like and his coach sent me that. He's like, he's wearing your hat today at school. I'm like, dude, that right there was worth way more money than I paid that kid to be a sponsor for his fishing team. And just to see how excited he was, and how committed he was, and I'm like, I want your schedule, because when you podium with a fish, I want to be there to take some pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'll get you a schedule. Immediately got me the schedule.
Well, and that's perfect, because that kid doesn't feel entitled.
No,
which a lot of kids
not
now
even a little
do.
bit. Oh my gosh,
and
my kids do.
Yeah,
and that's my fault.
I know, but then one of the hardest things to do is ask for charity.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what you have to do in the sponsorship world.
Yeah.
You're going to ask for something that they're not always getting something tangible in return. And for him to start learning that at that young age, that's going to take him a long way.
I told him, I was like, if you continue with this mindset, you continue with this work ethic, you can write your own check when you get out of here. Because there's 1% of them kids that are willing to do that. That kid is going to be the boss of every other kid that probably had a great middle class upbringing, that their parents provided everything for them and gave them everything, and that kid is going to run this place.
Well, I mean, we see it in the fishing space. God, we could do a whole other podcast on this. We don't have to do it. But a lot of these kids, when they're getting out of high school and they're wanting to, or they're getting out of college, even college is probably worse, and they just expect that I'm going to go fish the tour and I'm going to have sponsors, and they say, well, I can catch this many fish. It doesn't matter how many fish you catch.
Yeah.
They don't understand the business side of it. That, like, if you want to be a high level sponsor and angler, it is a business. It's not about how many fish you catch. It's how you can promote product. It's how you can build your brand.
I've had this conversation. I've had this conversation so many times with, and this is kind of going to lead into segue into what we needed to be talking about anyway, but with a client or two of mine in the past, and they say, well, I've done this and I've done that for such and such. Beyond that, it's whose back you're scratching too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if you want this such and such sponsor to renew for next year, you better take them hunting or fishing. That next trip you go on, you better have them in the boat, or you better have them in the tree stand, or you better do something.
Or at minimum, just keep in touch.
Yeah, minimum keep in touch. But like it's almost legalized extortion now. It's like, hey, you sponsor me. I got this elk hunt. I got an extra tag, and I can just slide it across the table.
How do I get to know those people? Because I never
Yeah, no crap, dude. Don't tell me nothing I don't know. But it's one of those deals to where, we've created this monster with social media. While we were talking at lunch, how easy it used to be when it was just TV and magazines.
Oh yeah.
So you worked in an ad agency. So tell me how easy it was back in the day, because then I'm gonna tell you how easy it was in the video production side.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, back in the day, it was we had to build out a media plan for the client, and it was okay, cool. Get in touch with the network, whatever networks would be. That was back when Sportsman Channel and Outdoor Channel were split and everything else, and you had Pursuit too.
The good old days. Yeah.
This was prior to Carbon TV and Waypoint TV and all that stuff, and So you call your rep there and, hey, I need this many spots. You know, you negotiate with him on where they're going to be. And then you call your guy from the print conglomerate, whatever it was, and say, hey, you know, I'm wanting to run this many ads, and what are we looking at for pricing? And that was done.
Yeah.
And then now you've got social, you've got the web was starting to get integrated a lot more when I was doing it, but even then they weren't wrapping their heads around it fully.
Yeah, no.
But now it's from your sponsorship to your social to the web to television, print, which are kind of going away. Yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, but when I was doing it, and when our main business, especially at Sub 7, when our only business pretty much was television, it was a lot of days in the field and it was a lot of work. But we really only had one job, and that's to create episodes for series. And the sponsors got integrated into the show either in an intro package, in a billboards package, in a group billboards, or in product integration in the show. And that was it.
Yeah.
Really the only other, I guess, kickers that they would get would be if they needed them to appear at a trade show, if they needed them at an event, if they wanted them to be in the catalog or a new product launch. Like, hey, if you wanted Lee and Tiffany to be in the new Polaris commercial, like those things were negotiable, I guess, a little bit. But still, like now we need X amount of posts. We need this many reels. We need this many pictures for our website, for our catalog. We need, I need to go find it. I've got a deliverables list from one of the old TV shows that we did, and it's enough work for 10 people, and we were a group of 3 at the time, and you couldn't keep up. And then, you have sponsor turnover because you couldn't meet the deliverables. Well, they were sold by a sales guy that doesn't have any idea.
He doesn't have to do the work.
He doesn't have any idea what it takes to do the work.
No.
And everything was predicated on killing 10 whitetails. Do you know how hard it is to kill 10 whitetails legitimately? I don't think you can legitimately without having an exorbitant amount of money and
time
all the time. Like not just
all the time.
Not just a little time, all the time.
Hope you're not married to the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you have wife and kids to go see, like you might as well not. Like these whitetail only shows, don't know how they do it. I don't know how they haven't had back surgery this many times. They're sitting in a tree stand as long as they have.
Yeah.
It's very, very, the whole thing is, it's not, even in social media might even make it worse, because to do 13 to 15 episodes, you got to kill 13 to 15 animals at a minimum.
Yep.
And that isn't sustainable or relatable to your clients. Well, now you've got social media, and guess which images and videos get the most likes and comments and engagement is ones probably with something dead in them.
Yeah. Or dying.
Yeah. So that makes you need to shoot that much more stuff. And that costs money and time and effort and production and everything else. So it's just this vicious circle. It's like, okay, and then we sit here and we say, okay, then what's next? What's the next thing that we're going to have to do? Because it went from, all right, just do a TV show. All right, now you got to do a TV show, and we're going to try to do some commercials. All right, now you got to do a TV show and some commercials, and now we need 15 images a trip. Now you got a TV show, commercials, 15 images, a graphics package. Now you got to have TV show, commercials, 15 images, graphics package, and I need 5 posts a week. Now you need all those things, 5 posts a week, and 5 reels a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need 5 reels a week that can be rehashed into TikToks. Now we need all of that and a podcast, and now you need to have 20 pieces of unique content that come from the podcast. But they're not paying anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying anymore.
Well, a lot of the companies too are they're changing the way that they look at it, because, you talk about your like billboards or your bumpers or your logo at the front and the end, and we need a product spotlight in the middle of the show, whatever it may be. And like, they're going like, we don't really care as much about that, because, how much value are the logos at the front end of the show bringing? Are people seeing it? No, they're not. It's the same thing with in your fishing world.
For those of you wondering,
big old zero, nothing. Well, and then the same thing, guys. Well, I'm going to put your kid, your high school kid. That's great that he's got wearing your hat.
Mm-hmm.
It may do something for you in the local market. Probably not.
I'm not even the least bit worried about that. I'm doing it because I wanted to help that kid.
Exactly. But the thing,
I want people, but more than anything, I want people when they see that kid's character on stage, that my hat's associated with that kid.
Yeah.
That I could care less if that kid wins a single tournament. I want him to. Could care less. But I want him to be associated with me.
Yeah. But like logo placement doesn't really mean a whole lot.
No.
Unless you're the title sponsor of a guy where, but it doesn't really happen as much in the hunting space. Maybe if you're like a Levi Morgan or something like that, like that's something big. But yeah, logo play, and these companies are starting to realize it too. And they're like, hey, no, I'd rather give me some reels. We're pushing all of our clients to say, give them solid direction on what you want. There's been, for too long, people have been sponsored, or whether it be paid or discount, and they're not giving any direction from the client on what they're looking for. Tell them, I want 5 reels. I want one to be an unboxing. I want one to be a product review. I want one to be just you using the product, like if it's a broadhead, like, okay, fine, I want to see a deer getting shot with it. Like be specific about what you're looking for. It makes your job easier. But
in theory it does. But these companies, man, they can't get specific. I don't think that we've asked those things too, and I've told, and we've said this on the podcast. Most of these companies don't know what they want. They know they want cool stuff. They want a 007 movie on a YouTube budget most of the time, but they don't know what they want. For me to go to you and say you're wearing a Costa hat, so we're going to say you're Costa. Hey, Costa, we're your agency or we're your media team, and you say you want content. Okay, that's a very, very broad term. What is it that you want? For them to come to me, and this gives me wet dreams to think about it, for them to come to me and say, we need 10 reels, we need 2 of them to be unboxings, we need 5 of them to be lifestyle, out fishing, we want 5 of them to be hunting or whatever, and then we need a brand anthem, and then we need this, and these are the kind of looks and feels we have, and that's what we want. Oh my God, do you know how much easier my job would be?
Oh, yeah.
Versus most of the time what they say is, hey, we want all this, and they push it across the table, 37 reels, 50 images, a web series that's 6 episodes long. It's like, cool. What do you want it to look like? I don't know. Why? They don't have. They know what they like, but or they don't have a brand identity as to what their look is, or what their feel is, or who their face is, or what their voice is. And a lot of times we have to tell them what they want. Yeah. We have to say, hey, here's what I think, Costa, which they don't tell Costa anything, but whatever X brand is, like, hey, you don't really have a look or a feel, so we need to make one. Black Rifle, everybody knows what Black Rifle looks and feels like. Yeah, everybody knows what Costa looks and feels like. Everybody knows what Yeti looks and feels like. But it's like you said before, when we were at lunch, those are marketing companies that just happen to sell a product. Yeah, that's what we've said about Matthews forever, and there's there's several of them in our space. But how do we, I guess the question I have is, how do we convey that message to these brands to say, hey, if you would get a little more specific, if you would drill down and get what you want and figure out, maybe this is the better question, what do you think right now is moving the needle for people, which I know you told me that people want reels. But what do you think is driving sales and moving the needle right now? What do you think, from your experience?
So it's interesting. So you brought up driving sales. I don't necessarily look at people promoting on social media as being able to direct apple to apples correlate to sales. We're talking about branding. We're getting the product out there. The way people consume on social media is they see a product, something that they find interesting. First thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Google. They're going to Google search it, and then they're going to go to YouTube. They may watch some reviews on it. Then they're going to go find the best price they can online. That's just how it works. So being able to go through all those little avenues they just went through, you're not going to be able to equate it directly to sales. So that's why, we don't look at follower counts on social media. We want to know the number of eyeballs that are on it. It's impressions, it's reels, views, engagements, things like that. Those are kind of the key metrics. But, what I would tell companies is when I say, give direction on what you're looking for, a lot of them take that as, well, I want you to do a video on this new trail camera, and I want it to have this person in it. And they almost would say, they would almost give the content to you and just say, repost our content. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. They're working with you because you have your own look. You have your own style, your own voice. So if I'm a brand, I'm going to go to someone I'm sponsoring or, content creator and whatever influencer it may be, and I'm going to say, hey, here's the new product we're launching. These are the key features. Tell people why you like it in your own story.
Yeah.
Using a real world situation. Put it in your voice. It doesn't need to sound, because the authenticity, I think, is probably what's driving more of the branding, more of the sales than anything else. These people are able to look at it and say, well, yeah, that guy hunts the same way I could go hunt, and this is the product being used in a real world situation, very similar to the way it is at me. I don't have a 500-acre farm in Iowa that I'm able to spend $500,000 a year on keeping my deer up.
It was only $500,000.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, that's not authentic. Now, but a guy that's like, hey, yeah, I got this 10 acres over here right near the house. I can go over there and hunt during the week. I just set up this new trail camera. The live feature's great because, I can be sitting at home and just, tap it when I see a deer, keep an eye on them. That's more authentic, and he's not pushing the brand so hard that it's like, you got to have this camera because it's the best camera ever. And, you will never lose a deer again with this broadhead, but he's not talking about the shot placement.
No, I had that conversation with a guy at the pro shop last night. Let's not get into broadheads. Good God.
You don't want to get, that's 10 podcasts in
Dude,
itself.
It really came down to, he's like, man, I shot this doe with a rage, man, screw them rages. And I'm like,
did you hit her in the shoulder and it didn't
penetrate? I said, was she quartering? He said, well, she was quartering to me and it just skipped off her ribs. I'm like, well, if she was quartering to you, and essentially the argument, because he wanted, which I do not want to get into this argument at all. Yeah, but I'm like,
you can say your piece.
we don't create broadheads for the perfect shot. We create them for marginal shots because most people make marginal shots. Mm-hmm. I was like, you go and ask a guy that has a dog trail or a deer trailing dog, which deer he finds more of, a fixed blade or an expandable. It's expandables all day, all day. If you want to shoot a fixed blade, go for it. Make a good shot. You should make a good shot regardless.
Yeah.
But which leads into your story. You told me you missed a big deer the other day. You hit your feeder. You got to tell me that story.
Bring it up.
Yeah, on the podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So on the podcast. I didn't even tell you the whole story. Yeah, so I hunt suburban stuff here around Atlanta.
Yeah.
I switched to a gravity feeder because I got tired of the motors blowing out and everything else. So I'm hunting right next to a greenway. I'm legally on my property.
Yeah.
I have permission to be there. But basically, I can't afford for deer to run that far.
Yeah.
So they got to be at like 20 yards, and you are center punching them.
Yeah.
So this deer comes in, has not been seen in daylight all season. I've had him on camera about once every 3 weeks for the last 2 months, 3 months. He shows up like 4 a.m. My wife's like, hey, look, you've had a tough week. Just go hunting for this evening.
Well, I like your wife. She's sweet.
Listen, that happens like twice a year. Okay, maybe. So I got to play up how hard my week was, if I've really got a big one on camera. So I go sit, nothing, sweat my butt off in a ground blind all night long.
That was Georgia. What else you think?
Georgia. I'm sitting like, this is stupid. I should have just stayed home. 8:03 is the end of legal shooting hours. You've hunted out of a ground blind if it's 8:03 in legal shooting hours, at like 7:50, you're going, can I even shoot one right now?
It's dark as Egypt.
8 o'clock, I'm going to pack up. I'm like, I'm done with this. I take one more peek out around the corner of the feeder. There he stands.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So I get drawn back. He's quartered away. And then he turns back, and he's standing right behind the feeder. And it's getting pretty dark. I'm like, I can squeeze a shot here.
I was about to say you're going to try and squeeze it in there.
I'm going to squeeze one. And it was one of those, if I hit an inch high, he was smoked in the heart, he's going to make it 20 yards. I did not hit an inch high. I hit an inch low, which happened to be the top edge of my gravity feeder. So I shot, and bang. All I see is Luminox sitting there, and he's gone. I get out of the blind. I'm just like huffing and puffing. Like, this is dumb. Get out of the blind. I look. Him and his buddies are standing there like it's these silhouettes in the field 100 yards away just looking at me. He ain't been back since.
Dude. Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was in Oklahoma. I don't know if I've ever told this story. It's on video. It's I was in Oklahoma hunting deer. I don't know, 140 inch. It would have been my biggest deer to date. And he's acting kind of nervous. There's a bunch of does. They kind of winded us, and he's in there right next to the feeder, kind of the same thing. And I'm drawn back, and I shoot a thumb button release, I always have, and I kind of shoot it like a back tension. I wrap my thumb, and I just start to pull through my shot as I'm aiming. Mm-hmm. And he's standing there. He's really nervous. I can tell he's nervous, so I'm trying to make the shot happen. And as I pull through my shot, About the time I pull through my shot, he turns and looks, and I hit him right in the face.
Oh my gosh!
Right in the face. And
did he go down?
No.
Oh.
It just kind of really cut the side of his face really bad. Showed up on the camera 4 or 5 days after I left, eating corn again.
Nobody else ended up killing him?
No, nobody.
You know somebody named that deer Scarface.
Oh, well, you know the video, my old editor, buddy of mine, Nate Thomas, who's so sweet to me. You remember, what's the movie? Where they say, in the face. Yeah, he made a whole spoof video about me shooting that deer like that. I'm sure somebody will probably post it in the comments. So, yeah it's nice and embarrassing. My buddy Will Allison was filming that one back in the day.
See, that's things you got it on camera. I'll send you the pictures of my arrow.
I've got some really embarrassing things on camera that I hope never find the light of day. But
yeah, I'll send you the pictures of my arrow in the feeder. You can feel free to post it to the viewers.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and take the hit on that.
Well, so let's talk now about getting back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So this is something that kind of gripes me, that a trend that I see, not even really a trend, it's just kind of the way of the world right now, is subject matter experts have lost their value in a lot of aspects. So I understand that there's a lot of these guys that I guess you could say are quote unquote subject matter experts that are 100 years old, that to me that don't have the, I wouldn't say value, but the influence that they once had. I get that. But 20 years ago, if you weren't somebody that had been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and knew what you're talking about, you couldn't be on television. Influencer game, that's not the case.
Yeah.
If you've shot a deer, you got lucky, or you have a nice rack yourself, you can really do a good job in the hunting and fishing world in your eyes. So there's no really easy way to tiptoe around this, but like where has subject matter experts' value went? Why has it went away from guys and girls? I mean, there's some girls too. There's still a couple girls out there. I mean, Tiffany's one of them. Melissa Bachman's another one that still get it done. Where has that went? Why have we lost? Why have subject matter experts lost their value? And do you think that'll ever come back?
Well, when you say subject matter experts, is it considered a subject matter expert because they are famous in our space?
To me, like I'm thinking of like which he still has value, but I'm thinking of somebody like John Dudley, who has been in the industry for 20 plus years, who's killed everything under the sun, who knows his archery backwards and forwards. Mm-hmm. Guys like him. Why don't we have an industry full of guys like him versus some of these other people that are pushing products that have not really done anything, that a sponsor hasn't taken them on a paid hunt already?
Yeah, I think it's hard to those people are hard to weed out, because you've got to also look at it as, if I've been bow hunting for 15, 20 years and I work behind the bow counter at a shop and I've shot, all the new bows and everything else, I'm not a celebrity, but technically I'm a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
There's guys that they focus only on trail cameras. They don't have a television show. All they do is test and review trail cameras. They're technically a subject matter expert. So I think it's the definition of what is a subject matter expert that comes down to it.
I can see that, but like to me, like I look at myself, like what can I say I'm a subject matter expert on? It would be outdoor content creation. Mm-hmm. I could say that. Played baseball my whole life. Played in college. I would say baseball is one. And my family and my kids. Outside that, I need help.
Yeah.
And those are things that I've done. Played baseball until I was 22, and I've done this for now 11 years full time. So I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hours.
Yeah.
So how can you find, or how can we weed out the TNA and the guy got lucky and shot a deer, or, has plenty of money to go on outfitted hunts and shoot stuff, or the guy that shoots a big deer in a Texas high fence? How can we make sure value is being placed on people that have put in thousands and thousands and thousands of hours? Because I look at it this way. If I'm going to go buy something, I know a lot of people, I'm not going to go buy something unless I see someone I trust, like a John Dudley, like a Chuck, like somebody like that, unless I've seen them use it and be successful with it, and then I reach out to them personally, which I have the luck of being able to do that, and say, I want to buy a thermal. Which thermal should I buy, Chuck? Which I've asked him that question about 15 times because I want him to tell me one that's not $10,000.
I don't know.
But he's like, he goes, this is the reason you want this one, and this is why. Or, Dudley, like, hey, I want a new sight or a new release or a new bow or whatever. And he's got the content to cover my questions, the reasoning for it. And, and I look at him also, this is also rare. He's been with 3 bow companies over almost 30 years. He's not been with everyone under the sun. Like I could name a couple companies that they change brands like they change their underwear. Yeah. And this is the best one I've ever shot. No, this is the best one I've ever shot. No, this is the best one ever. And it's just like, how can people people see right through that crap?
Well, I think they do. So a couple things. Part of the reason the value's gone down is social media.
Oh, well, God,
it, love it, hate it, whatever. It's made the average Joe, it's given him the ability to, it's essentially flooded the market, of subject matter experts. So that when that happens, it's going to obviously degrade on some of the value, of the guys who were that, and are still that. 2 is sponsorship has hurt it, because even though Chuck and Dudley and that they only use that product because they love that product and they're an expert on that product and that's why they work with that brand. So many people, the average consumers, look at that and they say, he's getting paid by them.
Yeah.
So I'm not, they're going to go listen to their buddy, and they're going to talk to their buddy who they know has been bow hunting longer than them. And they're going to say, hey, what do you shoot? What are your thoughts on this? So, I think it's partly social media and making it more available to people, but it's also partly the sponsorship side and the amount of money, and they know that these guys are, not all, and that's the hardest thing to convey to a consumer and your average hunter, is that they're not all bought. Like a lot of these guys literally, they could go make more money with another company, sponsorship wise, but they're sticking with this one because they believe in the product.
Yeah.
But they're all going to stand up there on TV and say, I'm with this company because I believe in this product, whether they're bought or not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, people I think have gotten a little bit more in tune with that, to where they're saying, oh, well, most of these guys are just bought, and they're kind of looking for more of the subject matter experts that maybe relate to them more on a, he hunts like I do. He's kind of a no-name guy, but I see a lot of his content. It looks legit, so that's going to flood the market. That's going to bring value.
The content's relatable. Like that's one of the things. Like my brother's a big YouTube hunting show guy. Watches Hunting Public like crazy. Watches Born and Raised, and I'm not somebody who consumes that. Yeah. Because I like high production value, storytelling. Guy behind the camera that is a producer, not a cameraman, and that's just because of the industry that I've been in forever. Yeah. I see value in what they're doing, but I asked my brother, I'm like, what is it about hunting public that you enjoy so much? He goes, and he's hit the nail on the head. He goes, because I feel like I could do what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, hunting public, Seek One.
Yeah.
I told you before the podcast, like Seek One, I know those guys. They do great. They've made it really hard to get permission to bow hunt. Yeah, I'm not going to equate it directly to Lee and Drew. Yeah. I like and Kendall. I love those guys, but and the reason they're popular, the reason they're successful, because it's like I mentioned about, I don't have a 500-acre farm in Iowa I'm dropping this amount of money on. Got a wife and 2 kids. I need to go knock on a door, and I could have a giant deer on camera. And that's relatable. Like I could very well have that same opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it's just like Lee and Tiff. They've made it really hard to buy a farm in Iowa now.
Yeah,
because it's a heck of a lot more expensive to buy one there now than it was before they got there.
Exactly.
And that could be a good thing if you're a farmer wanting to sell, and that could also be a bad thing if you're a guy like me and you that wants to go up there and lease a farm or buy a farm, or 3 buddies going to buy a farm. Well, now you used to buy 300 acres. Now you can buy about 30. Yeah. And that's a big dang difference.
Well, and this is a little off subject, but if you, and I may be just late to the game on this, a buddy of mine turned me onto it the other day, and I'm not affiliated with this company. I don't know them, anything about them. What's the new, is it the Hunting Trust or something like
Land
that?
Trust.
Land Trust?
Yeah.
That looked kind of cool. It's like where you could just kind of say, like he's trying it out this year for the first time out to Wyoming, I think, or something like that. And he's like, yeah, we've got this spot for 9 days, just me and my buddy were the only people that can be on it, and it's cheaper than going with an outfitter.
Oh, it's significantly cheaper going with an outfitter. Dudley actually does some stuff with Land Trust, and there's actually a guy here in Georgia that's been trying to do a very similar thing. It's kind of the Airbnb for urban hunting spots.
It's I know how to hunt.
Yeah,
I just have to have the space.
Yeah, he's been trying to do that for a long time, and it's because I've been looking for a place to lease in Oklahoma, Kentucky, or Missouri forever.
Yeah,
cannot for the life of me find anywhere. I want something on the eastern half of Oklahoma, virtually anywhere in Missouri, and then anywhere in western Kentucky or in northern Kentucky. Like I'm good with any of those places. Cannot find something. And if you do, it's astronomically expensive.
It's not a thing we can afford.
No. It's and it kills me, which everything has. And it's not to say like why would hunting be any different, but everything's turned into a money game.
Oh yeah.
You know, I have so many guys that want to go and do an elk hunt, but I mean, I don't have $10,000-$15,000 to spend an elk hunt, much less. Essentially, what you would need to do if you did an over the counter is you need to go out there and spend weeks scouting. Like they just don't have weeks to spend. They have a 9-to-5 job with 2 weeks vacation. Like 2 weeks is the max they're going to get.
If their wife will let them.
If their wife will let them, and they probably are, a lineman or something. They make $50,000 to $75,000 a year. That's just not in the cards to spend $15,000 on a New Mexico elk tag. And it's like, I get it, dude. But they watch the Primos guys go in Colorado and kill giants. And they're like, oh, man, I want to do that. And it's like, well, they're hunting the hill ranch. Oh, I want to go and kill, this bull that Rogan killed. Well, he killed that in Utah on a private ranch. That's an $18,000 elk hunt.
Yeah.
That's not, that's feasible for Joe Rogan. That's not feasible for you and me or 99% of the country that wants to go hunt. Nothing against those guys. If somebody gave me that elk tag, I'd be there with bells on.
If I had the money to do it, I'd do it.
If somebody gave me that tag or I could have the money to do it, I'd be there with bells on. But I don't. And it's not reality for everybody else. But that's why these companies go to places like that to create content. They pay the money to go there to create their content, and they put it out there. But the problem is they sell it as you and I can do that. We can't.
Yeah.
And the only way I'm going to be able to be successful out west is I got to move there, because you have to be able to have boots on the ground and be able to hunt on every weekend and take your 2 weeks when the hunting gets good. Other than that, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Not out west. That's why people hire guides and outfitters, because that's the only way you can be successful. Whereas if they wanted to come to Georgia and be successful, all they got to do is buy a tag, find a place to hunt, put out some corn, and wait. We're not comparing apples to apples here.
No. Well, and I do like some of the I've seen some stuff on YouTube guys are putting out about those DIY elk hunts, and that's something that I'm looking at as the consumer, because before I did this for a living, I still am the consumer. I still go buy stuff at Academy and Bass Pro, whoever's got the best prices. But I like that content where this guy self-films him and his buddy out west on a week-long elk hunt, and he's like, "Hey, here's how I prepped for it. I've got X time off of work. Here's the gear that I'm taking with me." And then they may not be successful, but at least I can see that it's like, oh, that's something I can afford to go do.
Yeah. And if you've not done that, you should.
I want to.
You absolutely have to.
I'm going to have to start running a little bit more.
There's nothing like, you're going to be out of breath regardless of how much you run.
Sure.
There's nothing like hearing an elk bugle in the woods.
Yeah.
And you have a bow in your hand. Nothing like it.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's the greatest thing in the world.
Probably have a nervous breakdown. If there was a feeder, I would shoot it. For sure.
I did. So I started filming in 2012, and I did 11 elk hunts before I ever laid hands on an elk, and it was one that I shot in Colorado. That's filming trips and hunting trips all combined. I did 11, and some of those were on big private ranches. Some of them were, before I ever watched an elk get shot, it was the one I shot in Colorado over the counter, and I got really freaking lucky. But there's nothing that compares.
Do you find more satisfaction in going with an outfitter and being successful compared to going on a DIY hunt and hearing bull's bugle and not firing a shot? Or is that fair to compare?
No, it's fair to compare. I think it's, to me, any way you can hear an elk bugle, you should do it. Even if it's going to Estes Park in Colorado just to listen to him bugle, even if you ain't got a bow in your hand, because there's nothing, no amount of videos that you can watch that compares to hearing it in real life. And then when you are the guy with the call in your hand and makes one bugle and they come to you, that's the top of the mountain. So I've killed 2 bulls. I killed one over the counter in Colorado, that little raghorn that's in my wife's office. I don't know. No, it's actually at my house now. And then that bull that's in that my wife's office was in New Mexico with an outfitter.
Mm-hmm.
Both of which were incredible. I had to work harder for the one in New Mexico than I did the one in Colorado because I got really lucky on the one in Colorado. But the one in Colorado was the coolest because I was there with my dad and my brother. And after I killed that bull the second or third day, I got to guide my brother and my dad, and
cool.
almost called one in for my dad. In the state of Colorado, they have to have 4 on one side or a 5-inch brow tine. And this was a little 3-point, but he had like a crazy squiggly 8-inch brow tine.
He never's going to fall within the exact
So
metrics.
he was legal,
Yeah.
and I called him right by my dad at like 20 yards, and I just I'm laying on the ground like watching this happen, and I see him coming, and I'm like, I don't want him to see me. So I like lay down. I'm not screwing this up for my dad. And I never hear a shot. And then I hear like walking. And like I'm laying on my side on the ground, and I see these freaking elk's hooves me to that wall. And I'm like, and I like take my hand that has my glove on it, and I like put it over my face so this elk won't see me.
See you.
And it finally gets back past us far enough to wind us and then runs off. And I stood up. I'm like, Dad,
What the heck?
what the heck? He goes, well, he only had 3 on one side. I said, did you not read the regs, Dad? 3 on one side or a 5-inch brow tine? He goes, oh, well, he had that. And I'm like, I know. I was waiting for you to shoot. He's like, I was trying to make him grow that 4th point, and he just wouldn't do it.
But it's that experience.
Oh
though,
man,
you know? I mean,
I wouldn't give him $1 million for that.
Well, even this year, I was telling you at lunch, I've got a 3-year-old, turned 4 this month.
Mm-hmm.
He's hunted with me last year, hunted with me this year. He's sat in a ground blind 8 times.
Mm-hmm.
So at 3 years old, he's got 16 hours of sits.
Yeah.
And we've not shot a deer.
Yeah.
Well, I finally got this barn spot. I had just missed my deer rush out the feeder. And this doe comes out, and he had to sit there dead quiet for 4 minutes watching this doe, which at 3 years old is very hard.
That's a tall order.
And then I shot, perfect shot. I didn't think it was, but it was perfect shot. She ran 20 yards and dead. That kid about had a breakdown.
Oh, I
so
bet.
excited. And then I'm shaking like a leaf. Like I could not kill a big deer for the rest of the year, not even see one, and
Yeah.
I'd be completely content because of that experience.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like we got way off track there. But
No, we're good. No, I mean, I'm trying to go back. We've got several people watching that are commenting
cool.
and asking questions, so I'm trying to go through and read some of the comments, just
you're
like
good.
see if they've got any like specific questions. Because one of them was talking about turnover in marketing and like why marketing companies turn over so much. And my buddy Matt Postel, I never say his last name right. He's 42 pros. He's very, very consistent listening. He said companies have mistaken followers as a relevant industry content creators, and which is true.
100%.
And then this whitetail pandemic said, I wish companies would look at the quality of work that they're about to put their names on. Some of these people's videos and reels and other content just suck, which is 100% true. But I replied to that, they want it cheap. They don't care about the quality. That's one of the things that, I mean, some companies do, but some of the ones that we've came up with, and especially if you watch YouTube, man, it's one of those deals to where these companies, they want it now. They want quantity over quality, and that really drives me nuts. We talked about it a little bit, which I think we kind of got off track, but you told me in terms of the numbers and analytics you're getting, what companies want right now are reels. Yeah.
So the reason is well, to his point about quality, it depends on the life cycle of the company.
What do you mean by that?
If I'm a brand new company coming to market, right, I just need eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where I get them from. Okay, so we're just get it out there to as many people as you can, and so on. So, but as it becomes a more established product, then I'm taking a look at my team and I'm saying, okay, well, who's putting out the quality stuff, who's not? And then I'm starting to take a little bit more control over, here's the type of content we're looking for. Here's the type of stuff we want you to do. This guy, I'm not going to sign him back up because, the quality of stuff's kind of whatever. So, we've worked with companies that have a huge team of influencers or pro staff or field staff, whatever you want to call them. And they're like, hey, it's out of control. We've got some good quality, some not. So we work with them to bring them back. right? And then we've got some companies that brand new product, not many people know about it. We just got to find a bunch of people who are going to go out there and put it out there, you know. And then as their life cycle progresses, they get the word out there. Then as it becomes more established, then they're starting to say, okay, well, now let's look at what we got. Let's bring this back to these are the people who are doing really well. Those are the ones we want to stick with. Those are the ones we want to better utilize moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see a lot of that. Reels and followers, to your other guy's point. We never look at follower counts for analytics. It's a completely irrelevant number. They could be bought. They could be how many times you get followed by some girl on Instagram that you're like, nope, and I just block it immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, followers is irrelevant. Another way you can tell that, and I'll guarantee you, most of your listeners can go on their personal Instagram. If they're posting reels, 99% of them will have multiple reels that have more views than they have followers. Now, could some of those be, somebody viewing it twice? Well, we'll have to look at reach and impressions there to be able to kind of tell whether or not that was so reach is the individual number of people who have seen it. Impressions is the number of times it's been seen. So if Caleb watches my video 3 times.
What counts as an impression, though? Not to cut you off.
That's what I'm about to say.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
if Caleb watches my video 3 times, that's 3 impressions. That's 1 reached.
Okay.
So
how long do I have to watch it to count as an impression?
I mean, that can vary.
Because that's my thing. Is like
It's
on a
the
TikTok
autoplay.
video or an Instagram reel, I'll go through and the first thing I see is Billy Bob on the back seat of his truck. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Does that get counted as a view?
It would get counted as a view. More
Really?
Yeah. So what we've seen from Meta, we'll just call it collectively Meta, Instagram, Facebook, is that they're trying to pump out the biggest numbers they can.
Oh, of course they are.
Because that's going to help them make more money and everything else. So it's kind of hard to dial into, to that at the specific point. But what I'm saying is that a lot of your videos, your reels will have more views than you have followers.
Yeah.
So if that's gauged based on reach, that means that, think about it with reels, and the reason they're so important is how many times have you been down a reel rabbit hole where you start watching an elk hunting reel, next thing you know, you're on to bow fishing, next thing you're at NASCAR, and then by the end of the time you know it, like you're down to somebody knitting sweaters for cats.
Yeah, or somebody shaking their butt.
Exactly. Yeah, YouTube's the same way. So those reels are, with their algorithms, like somebody who's not your follower is more than likely going to see your reel. So not only are your followers seeing it, but we're also expanding out past your followers. That's why there's so much value there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's what companies are asking for. Companies are asking specifically for reels more than anything.
I have one client specifically told their people, thank you for posting about us in stories. That's great. You can continue to do it. We don't really care. We want to see more reels.
Mm-hmm.
Timeline posts, all that are fine still, but they want to see more reels because they know it's getting to an audience outside of the audience they normally have.
And pictures, what do pictures have value anymore?
Pictures do have value just depending on how you're using them. If it's a guy grip and grin with a big bass and he's tagging all of his sponsors, it's not doing a whole lot for a sponsor.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's not specific to the product, we tell them it needs to follow one of 3 criteria. Either it's specifically about the product, it is got the product logo predominant, not just in the background, not just random, or the product needs to be 110% directly related to the activity. That's one of those 3 criteria on an image. And I would say the same goes for a reel too.
Yeah. So essentially a reel that's kind of a hype reel that's just a conglomeration of things that's not specifically about something, doesn't have as much value as I'm sitting on the bed of a truck reviewing the new Thermacell.
Exactly. So, and then, stories, I know everybody loves stories. I love stories. I scroll through them all the time. They do a lot for getting engagement from your following, like somebody DM you or something like that.
That's all I look at stories anymore.
But the problem is you got to look at it's only up for 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So that story is if your job is to promote a product, promote a brand, that story is up for 24 hours. It's very easily could be missed by someone.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, how do you consume stories? You tap to the right, tap to the right, tap to the right, tap to the right if it's something that doesn't interest you. So the reel, on the other hand, is long-lived. It's going to get shown via the algorithm to people who aren't followers of you. So that's why there's a little bit more value placed on a reel than there is on a story.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that. And we get asked for them all the time, and we do them, and we're more than happy to do them. I guess my next question would be, and we talked about this a little bit on the phone, obviously what we want to do is long form.
Mm-hmm.
You know, episodic films, documentaries, all that good stuff. So where do you see that having value? Where do you see that finding a home? And then how do you see that being leveraged, if you even see that being leveraged at all anymore?
So, no, we still see it being leveraged. I mean, I feel like it's a different audience a lot of times. Your guy that's going to go watch your 100% long form content, he likes that kind of content. The person that's just swiping Instagram, scrolling through Facebook, whatever, you know, he may like more of that short form, real type of content. We saw a huge uptick in that during COVID, and I'm not a blame everything on COVID type person. COVID had a direct effect on marketing, on how social media is consumed. I hate to say it, but it did. Yeah. People were locked up in their house, and they got to the point where they just wanted quick hit. They wanted content fast and short.
They weren't afraid to spend money during COVID either.
Exactly. So now we're kind of on the COVID hangover, spending money-wise, and a lot of the companies are feeling that.
But they're feeling that, but they're expecting the same sales numbers they had in COVID, and they don't understand why they're not getting them.
All it's doing is coming back to where it was prior to COVID.
Yeah.
You know, enjoy the high, expect it to come back to where it was.
Yeah.
You know, but to the long form point, you know, what I would suggest is if you really like long form, and that's your passion in your case, you know, have that available on YouTube, on your Vimeo. You know, I would say in your case, YouTube and Vimeo. I know you may not be as huge of a fan of YouTube, but there's more eyeballs on YouTube.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, so have it available there and use your reels as a teaser.
Yeah.
And as a driver to drive it to that long form stuff. Because you are probably reaching a different audience on your Instagram than you are on your YouTube account.
Yeah.
I'd like to know from YouTube, and you'd never be able to get this number, out of all the views on hunting content, how many people viewed the content that were not subscribers of those channels?
Yeah.
Not you specifically. I'm sure you could pull those analytics, but like as a whole, you know, when someone's going on YouTube and viewing hunting, I know me for myself, I subscribe like 2 channels.
Yeah.
You know, but like there's more people actively seeking out content on YouTube. And then you just use your reels as your driver to drive people there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of we look at social media completely different than I guess your clients and your brands would. We look at it as, for Copeland Creative and Redneck Tech a little different than Copeland Creative because we're trying to put out content that helps people, that is short form, that also points back to our YouTube. So exactly what you're saying. But for Copeland Creative specifically, you know, the production house side is we look at our Instagram page specifically as a landing page for a brand to say, hey, oh, you know, we this video got posted for a brand that we did, like Bergara posted a video, and like we get tagged as the creators of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or they like, oh, well, Copeland Creative did that, I like that, and go to their page, and they go to our page. What we're about to do, we haven't done it yet, is we're going to just put up all of our projects in the triple stack that has images and the videos related with that project.
Yep.
So when you go to our page, it's just a resume.
Yeah.
And we're not going to post on it anymore. We're not going to post any reels. We're not going to post anything. We're just going to post stories until we do a new project, and then we'll do another triple stack project.
Yeah.
So you can just kind of see a timeline of who we're working with and what we're doing, because we don't care about followers.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, engagement's cool and all, but we don't gain anything from that. We want it to be someone looks at it like a resume for us.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, because honestly, for us to keep up with the posting on social, we just don't have the time. We're working on stuff for brands, and that was our gripe forever with film festivals, which they still suck. My opinion on that has not changed. Is all these film festivals, all the films were terrible, and we had complained about it for years and years and years. And I was like, but we'd never done a podcast about it because I wasn't going to be the guy that complained about it until we did a film of our own, like we thought that should be done. And then we did that, and they didn't even put it in the film festival because it didn't fit their narrative.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we've went full ham on it.
There's no politics in this industry at all.
None whatsoever. That was kind of my next question, though, is what do you see the difference between the fishing and the hunting space? Because you work with both, right?
Yeah.
Do you see differences on the social media influencers between fishing and hunting? What one does well than the other? Or are they pretty similar?
There's some differences. I mean, the same point is the same.
Yeah.
People giving discounts in exchange for promoting a product.
Yeah.
Hunting obviously is seasonal. So what people need to understand about social is if you're really trying to build a following, if you are not consistent in your posting, your reach, your engagement, all that stuff's going to tank. So, like, if you take 2 weeks off of posting anything, you're going to see the difference because the algorithm wants you to be active. Meta wants you to be active.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing on fishing is I see a lot more of the, hey, look at all my sponsors patch stuff, you know, where it's like, oh, here's this Grip and Grins big bass that I caught, and I'm going to tag all 20 of my sponsors. So I see it being worse about being like sponsor-specific content, and we've got the data to back this up. We can actually, when we're tracking, we're able to say, hey, if they've mentioned the sponsor within the first number of characters, then we can identify that as a valued post as compared to just a branded post. So, I mean, I can show you the differences in the numbers, and it's far worse on fishing. Hunting side, though, a lot more people are still just running off their personal accounts on you know, Facebook, Instagram. And that's something we're really trying to push or really trying to coach, is if you're sponsored by a company, you are no longer the average consumer.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, well, you are an average consumer.
I have to tell myself that all the time.
Yeah, but so yeah, exactly. Like, you still are in your head, and if you didn't work in the space, yes, you wouldn't change anything. But like, that company's working with you because the average consumer looks to you for information.
Yeah.
So you need to have a business Instagram account, and you need to have a Facebook fan page. So what that's going to allow you to do is, one, it gives you control back of your social media. So you're able to go into your personal Facebook page and look at personal stuff. You know, it's not all people that are just directly related to hunting. Any of your hunting content needs to be posted on a fan page that's, you know, Clay Copeland Outdoors, whatever you want to call it, you know. So, and a lot of people are scared by that. And what it is it's actually not that hard, because if you're posting on Facebook and Instagram, if you've got them connected, you post on Instagram, you click share to Facebook, and it does it automatically.
Yeah.
So you're running 2 pages while only having to post in one spot.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're just running off personal stuff, that's the same thing every consumer has. It's personal pages. So if you're really serious about it and you want to be taken seriously, you need to have the.
I talked to Dudley, and this was, I think he's actually back to a business page now. But before, he was still on the personal page because he said it was growing crazy faster than a business page was. And I think that's changed.
Yeah.
That was probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Reason being, Facebook bought Instagram. Business pages are the monetized pages. I'm pretty positive you cannot get a personal page monetized. So if they're monetizing your page, that means they have something invested in it.
Yeah.
If they're going to pay you, you better believe they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to adjust algorithms where, you know, you're going to make sure those business pages are growing.
So let's talk about YouTube a little bit.
Okay.
So what's your take on YouTube and where it sits right now, and how that's being leveraged with brands and doing well, not doing well?
It's not being leveraged enough. I think they're coming around to it. The way the YouTuber is putting stuff out, you know, a lot of them are going into it with the television mindset of, you know, here's my bumper front and end. We'll use your product somewhere in the video, maybe. And then they'll tag all their sponsors in the description.
Yeah.
The ones I see doing well is where in the description of it, it'll say, and they'll probably usually have a blurb in the video, like, hey, just let you know, like, at the end of this video, like, there's all the products I use specifically are at the end of this video, whether you like them, not like them, whatever. And they'll have a link to each specific product for their sponsor. So, yeah, they may have 20 other sponsors, but they're not talking about those in that video. So they're being specific, which is very good. Brands are, it's kind of tough because, as with television, YouTube is now becoming so popular, people are wanting to get paid. So for a brand, it's difficult to say, well, hey, I'm going to send you a $400 camera. Can you do a YouTube video for me? The guy's going to be like, no. I mean, if I've got a following that you're reaching out to me, I'm going to want to get paid. Yeah. So it's, what does that payment look like? Yeah. You know, that's why a lot of our media values and stuff that we calculate are based off of the compensation that YouTube would pay these people when they're monetized. So what's YouTube paying you? Because that's what they think it's worth. Yeah. So we calculate our media values based on that, and then brands should keep that in mind too.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did you so if you calculate it based on YouTube, then if that's what YouTube's seeing it, yeah, I can see that, because I mean, even with our small following, we have people reach out to us to do stuff like that too, but they reach out to us not because of our following, but because they know they're going to get good content. They're like, hey, we'll send you, you know, we just had one recently. They wanted us to do something with Smith & Wesson. They wanted us to do a reel for Smith & Wesson. I'm like, yeah, that's great. How long is it going to take? We'll give you a price. He's like, oh, no, we just want to do it to promote y'all's page and make it. And I was like, no.
Product don't pay the bills.
I was like, yeah, I don't. I was like, I'm not interested in doing that. The way that we make money is creating the content for the brands, not by growing our followers. I could care less if we ever got another follower.
Yeah.
And that he didn't like that. He didn't like that response very much. But it's one of those things to where I see why an individual guy would do it, to grow a page, to get a following, to where he could try and sell himself to whoever to try and monetize that. And which I look at it now, the YouTube thing or the social media thing is kind of what TV used to be in terms of a TV show. Like, because you could have a TV show, still can, if you got enough money.
Yeah.
Is you pay the airtime, you got enough money to go out and do the hunts and produce the show, you can have a TV show. And I always said that there was a couple types of hunting shows, whereas now I guess there's a couple types of influencers. There's the influencers out there that are just looking to get some discounts, that are going to work their butts off for, and those guys might even have more value than the next tier, which are guys that are trying to get free stuff. Then the next tier is the ones that are trying to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next tier is the ones that are going to be brand ambassadors, that are making salaries, that are the ones in the booth at trade shows and that are doing the big hunts.
See, those are my true pro staff.
Yeah.
Where your discount level, those to me are the brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
And what with this all though too is, I hate to see the guys that I'll go to them, or a company will go to them and say, well, we want you to do this for us. And they're like, well, no, I need to get paid. And I look at his account, I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
You've got to know your place. You got to know, not your place, but you have to know where you are in your journey, I guess you would say.
Do you see that entitlement come through there though? Like,
gosh,
to where guys just think they caught 3 fish and they need to get paid for it?
But dude, I saw that back when I worked in advertising.
Yeah.
The flip side of it, what it was back then was, well, I've got a TV show.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I don't care.
Dude.
And they'd come to me and say, well,
I've heard it all.
I'm going to bring you $3 million in media value.
Yeah.
And for anybody listening, if you don't understand media value, EMV, estimated media value, what it is, it's a dollar value amount placed on what you can bring to return. Eyeballs, essentially.
Yeah,
so
households, eyeballs.
Households, eyeballs, CPM, all these different terms. Basically, it's what is it worth?
Used to be what, like $15 $1,000 or $15?
It depended on, and that's why guys would come and say, well, I need, I'm going to bring you $3 million in media value. For number one, I'd say, well, how much love do you give to me over your bow sponsor, over your archery over your arrow sponsor, over your broadheads, whatever it may be. And they wouldn't be able to really tell me that.
Imagine that.
Which is kind of what started getting me along the idea of starting the company I did. But then also, they wouldn't be able to tell me how they calculated the media value. And I'm like, how? And they said, well, it's kind of our proprietary numbers. I was like, oh, you mean your fluff numbers?
Exactly. Oh, dude, that's what I was about to say. How much, since you were on the ad agency side, when you would look at RenTrack and Nielsen ratings, how much did you actually believe that crap?
I threw it out.
Oh, dude.
I threw every bit of it out.
Thank you for saying that.
I did. I'm not sure that others did.
Dude, it was such crap. Mm-hmm. I remember back in the day, we would get these numbers for the shows. We were doing 7 TV shows when I left Sub 7. We got numbers that said 3 of the 7 we were doing were the number 1 show. How is that possible?
Yeah.
How can 3 shows be in the number 1 show?
They can't.
They can't.
No. And then on top of that, the household count. So how do you guarantee me out of 10,000 households, we'll just throw a number out there, it's way more than that. How can you guarantee me that Bob has his butt in his recliner watching it?
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
So that's a kind of a bogus number too.
Yeah.
So that's why when we started doing it with these accounts where these guys could track themselves specific sponsors, I tell them, hey, look, run the report on this sponsor. Take it to another potential sponsor and say, look, here's what I did specifically for this sponsor. Is my dollar value amount lower than what you would normally be pitched? Yes, but it's real. So would you rather me pitch you a real number that I can be transparent and tell you how I calculated it and why I calculated it that way? Or would you rather me throw out some bogus number that I'm just trying to hear, blowing smoke over your eyes and trying to sell you on something?
Yeah.
And that's kind of been a change because it's been done for so long where people just want to see the biggest number they can, and it's like, but it's not real.
No. And the wool has been pulled over people's eyes so often. And dude, I really think that some of these other platforms are doing it too, the Carbons and the Waypoints. And
do you think, though, that this also could be a reason as to why, as you mentioned earlier, that your product category expert value has been deteriorated because companies are starting to realize?
I don't think you can believe anything anymore. The only thing, and I'm sure there's a way to manipulate this though. The only thing you can really believe is YouTube views, because, which I'm sure there's a way to manipulate that too. But I always told people, which I said this on the phone, I would rather have 100,000 views on a YouTube video than 10 million households with a TV show.
110%. Because if I'm a brand coming to, looking at what you're doing, I know those 100,000 people on YouTube. Yeah, some of them may have been served up by the YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But a lot of those are going to be people specifically seeking out a specific type of content. Maybe not you.
Yeah.
But they're saying DIY Elkhart, Montana.
Yeah.
And your video showed up.
Yeah.
So they've specifically looked for your content so they're engaged.
Yeah.
And it's not a bogus, like, hey, my girlfriend saw this on her page, so she counts as a view.
Yeah.
And she's not the potential consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very targeted. It's very curated. It's narrowed the demographic. It's you can target your ads. You can do all those things. Like when I was watching, doing some market research on some stuff we were doing. I was watching Seek One or Hunting Public or whatever, and which neither one of them are sponsored by Sitka, but Sitka ads were in every one of them.
Yep.
Every one of them, Sitka had the opening ad on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. I see how that's your target market, even though Seek One's not wearing it. They're wearing Realtree, and Hunting Public, I think, I don't even know if they're sponsored by Camo anymore. It used to be Mossy Oak or something.
I don't know.
But it's like one of those things to where, like, I see the whys, and I look at, like the views, they're getting 30 to 50 to 1.2 million views, and they have, let's say it was like 300,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
That's a bunch. And there's a bunch of people that watch that, and 1.2 million views. I don't know what that equates to in dollars on YouTube. It's probably not a ton.
It's not a ton, but do enough of those a year, you're going to be making a pretty good living.
Yeah. So it's one of those deals to where how do you do that in a way, and how do you take that, sell that, and make it unique? And to me, that's the only way it's believable. And maybe real numbers are believable, and and YouTube views, but these social, or these, like the Carbons and the Waypoints and the TV shows, I can't. How can I believe that number? Because I'm having to go through the Wizard of Oz to get that number, and he's giving me, you've got this many views. It's like, okay, well, how?
Well, he has to put out good numbers too, because that television show is paying him for the airtime. So if I'm paying that guy for my airtime and I'm the TV show, and he's putting out numbers that I think are low, I'm not going to pay him for that airtime.
Yeah. Well, and it keeps me to where if you're telling me, hey man, you had 15 million households, which equated to X amount of minutes watched, this, that, and the other. Well, now that's a big number. Now you can take that and sell your show. And it's incentivized for Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel to say every year that you got more than you did last year, and more than you did. And there's no way those numbers are going up. They have to be going down.
And I'm not trying to dog on any of the outdoor platforms.
I am. I'm not even ashamed to say it.
I think a level of transparency would be nice.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and there's never been that. It's all been, well, we have our own special algorithm, or, proprietary, blah, 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 whatever.
Special.
It shouldn't be proprietary. It shouldn't be special. What we do, when my client goes in to generate their media value, I give them baseline numbers. Hey, we did some research. Every company's different. But, based on our research, this is where we feel like the baseline should be. And we give them the ability to edit those numbers. So if they feel like YouTube view, if I've got it at 10 cents a view, and they're like, nah, I'd only pay for 5 cents a view, they can change the number. It's totally, and the same thing for our premium members, like they can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So if they've got a sponsor that comes back to them after looking at their media value, and they're like, find that to be a little bit high, a little bit inflated, they can talk to them and say, well, hey, where would you like this to sit so that I can provide you an accurate representation of what I've done? And they can adjust the data.
Well, essentially what you're doing is you're trying to create an even playing field.
Yes.
And you're trying to take this mountain of data and analytics, put it in a palatable platform to give a tool to not only the ambassadors and influencers, but the brands to say, hey, we've got 500 influencers.
Yeah.
And only 77 of them are doing anything for us.
I see a lot of that.
So we're about to can 400 people.
And we've never had someone lose sponsorship over the data we provide.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people lose sponsorship over not doing anything.
Yeah, well.
And I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's not your fault.
You know, but like we're just the messenger.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take data that's already public, that's very hard to accumulate.
Yeah, to curate,
to
get
curate
all
it
get
together
in one place. Yeah.
And I'm just saying, hey, here's an easy spot, an easy way to get it all in one spot. You take it and do with it what you want to from there.
Yeah.
And if the guy's doing his job, 95% of our members have zero issue with what we do because they do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that have a problem with it and refuse to set up an account, typically I'll go and look at their social and everything. I'm like, well, no wonder they're not doing anything for their sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's just, we try to make it as black and white as we can.
Yeah. Well, that's all you can do. And you kind of got to, if you want to be your own boss, you kind of got to be your own boss. You know, if you tell people you're going to do something, you kind of need to deliver it. Kind of need to do it. Otherwise, you get fired. That's how the real world works.
And it's a small industry, so you get canned enough times, you know as well as I do. I mean,
don't know, man.
Word gets around.
It does, but I've got one former client that is a royal douche nugget, and some people
What's
still
their name
pay
again?
that.
No,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna make
some
say it.
people pay that guy still, and I just don't get it. I don't know how he's still.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll tell you.
I know who it is. Yeah,
I'll tell
I
you
know,
off the podcast for sure.
There's always going to be that one.
Well, there's more than one, but this one specifically.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things to where and it kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit, which we talked about a lot of this at lunch, but I think what Seek One's done, what Hunting Public's done, is relatable. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another big thing that a lot of guys and girls are out there think they can't do something different, or they don't understand why they're not moving the needle. It's because they're doing the same thing everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You know, and for you to sit there and say, well, it's all been done, this is all I can do, that's not the case. There's always a new way to skin that cat.
Mm-hmm.
And Seek One's done it. Hunting Public's done it. I've got a list of ideas on my computer of things I've wanted to do that are different. You gave me a really good idea at lunch that I think would be a really good one that I'd love to figure out a way to work with you to do.
I'm giving it to you.
It's one of those things to where there's ways to do this.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways to move the needle. There's ways to tell stories. There's ways to bring value. And that's what it comes down to. You have to bring value.
Yep.
One way or the other. Is it views? Is it followers? Is it being an ambassador? Is it being the guy that answers questions? Is it being honest with people? Is it answering your phone? Is it a combination of all of those things? You know, and if you're the guy or girl sitting out there that's like, well, I catch big fish, and that should translate into dollars. It's not what it's about.
No.
If it was only about catching big fish and going into dollars, then there's some farm ponds in Texas I can go catch big fish and catch bigger fish than you. Well, it ain't got nothing to do with catching big fish or killing big deer anymore. That's not hard to do if you got enough money and time.
Yeah, and on the fishing side, you know, over the shoulder fishing, Bill Dance Days, Sulphur Pond, you know, Roland Martin. I'm gonna probably draw a blank on some of the other old school guys. You know, that over the shoulder fishing show, it's been done. It's done. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not. It's relatable for some of the old school guys, you know, but any of the younger guys coming up, they know the names, but it's not as relatable. You know, that's why you see your like Land Shark Outdoors on YouTube, like some of these other guys doing well. And then a lot of times the tour level pros are like, well, you know, I don't have time to do that. Well, take a look at a Brandon Pallenut, for example. You know, he's doing elk hunts, he's doing fishing, but he's also like filming his behind the scenes stuff. And he's posting it on Instagram, he's posting it on YouTube and all that. And it's not about the tournament itself, and it's not an over-the-shoulder fishing show. You know, it's behind the scenes, and people like to see that stuff. So, you know, that's changing. He almost has his own fishing show, but not. It's all like social media and, you know, YouTube-based.
Yeah.
You know, so some guys that do well, and I mean, everybody knows the name Meat Eater, with the cooking stuff, with the different, you know, areas they're involved with.
Dude,
they do a great job on what they're putting out there on YouTube.
I don't want to sidebar you, but for any of you guys listening, it's a podcast within the podcast. Bear Grease is the podcast that Meat Eater does, but there's one inside that called This Country Life.
Yeah, I've heard that. I haven't listened to it.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
it is my absolute new obsession.
And those guys are real, like we talked
about.
Dude,
this guy is. I want to sit down with this man so badly, because every story he tells and the way he tells it is every story I've heard my whole life growing up around here.
Is it Clay?
No, his name's Brent Reeves.
That's right. I've heard him on there, yeah.
Dude, I can't tell you how many people I've told about that podcast since I started listening. My brother's the one that turned me on to it. And I'm telling you what, man, it is what I wish the world still was.
Yeah.
50 years ago, this guy, you have to listen to it. I won't do it justice, but the way he tells stories, he grew up in Southeast Arkansas, just talking about growing up and fishing and hunting and manners and saying hello and being a good neighbor and watermelons and snakes and just all the stuff that I've heard my dad and my granddad tell stories and my uncles all my life. And, it's just this day's gone by. Oh my gosh, man. I wish that guy did a podcast today. I'd listen to that guy talk every single day. It's so good.
And to your point about the long format stuff, look what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They've got the podcast, which drives traffic to all their platforms. Mm-hmm. Each guy individually is doing stuff on Instagram. Meat Eater's doing stuff on Instagram, teaser things, all drives back to YouTube. And then at the same time, they've got the Netflix things and all those things going on with their long format stuff. And they also have the long format on YouTube. So you don't have to choose a side.
Yeah.
But you do need to utilize them all.
Mm-hmm.
That would
be, they all work together. They're all their own thing, but they all point back to one thing.
And even just utilizing one of them, you can be successful.
Yeah.
But you're going to be more successful if you're utilizing them all collectively.
But it's a lot of work.
And
it costs a lot of money to do it.
That's why there's not as many people doing it. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned about the kid earlier, he's willing to put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
So, these are the people who are willing to put in the work.
Yeah, 100%, man. And Meat Eater, I have a ton of respect for those guys. The show is great, but the show would only be okay if it didn't have Steve Rinella, in my opinion. Steve Rinella is what makes that show what it is.
Well, yeah, but look what they did with the boat series where they did
Das Boat. Yeah.
Super cool. Longer format, like you like, but, really cool series outside the box.
Paul Borg helped film some of that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
They should look for a new film crew. Just kidding. I love Paul. Paul, if you're watching, sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Paul's the man.
Yeah. No, he's incredible. But what they're doing with when I look at Meat Eater stuff, I go on there to look at like the game processing, process all my own stuff. So the recipes, wife likes the recipes. So like I'm looking for that short form content, but if they have something for everybody.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's they do a great job, man, and they have tentacles everywhere. They got the Southeast covered, they've got the Michigan Midwest covered, they've got out West covered.
They could cover a little bit more whitetail in the Southeast.
Nobody covers.
Georgia's got to be the biggest sleeper state for big whitetail.
Well, in downtown Atlanta, it is. Well, yeah. Well, I think that secret's out, but I think that we do have some.
Yeah.
If you can successfully kill anything in Georgia, a good deer, bear, turkey, whatever, you can kill anything anywhere.
Yeah.
I've hunted every state in this nation except the couple of northeast states, like north of Virginia. Mm-hmm. There's nothing harder than here.
Well, and anybody listening who says that, because I'm a suburbs guy, I've got 3 pieces of land. They're all between 2 and 9 acres in between neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Anybody that tells me that that's just shooting fish in a barrel,
no.
We'll argue all day long.
Yeah.
It is not it's different.
I've done very little of it. It ain't easy.
It's not easy. It's very different. Mm-hmm. But when you're dealing with a deer that can pattern you more than you pattern him, because he's watching you walk in from 75 yards away when you can't see him.
Well, it's the second most prolific land animal in North America behind the coyote, And the only thing that's the difference between a coyote and a whitetail is a whitetail probably wouldn't cross causeways and bridges in the middle of the night to gain territory and distance, whereas a coyote will.
Yeah.
That's really the only distance. I mean, they live virtually everywhere. There's known coyotes in every city. I would say there's known whitetails in pretty much every city around.
Yeah.
And killing a big deer in the Southeast is not easy to do.
Well, and like in the suburban factors, like I could have the deer patterned. Like I know he's, typically my deer they'll be on a pattern where it's like, hey, he'll show up for a few days once every couple weeks. Well, I could be like, all right, he's going to be in there tomorrow. Well, somebody may fire up a leaf blower, have a new roof being put on their house that stopped him. You know what I mean? So that could change things up. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But, like I said, whenever people think big deer in North America, typically Georgia's not what comes to mind. But
No.
We've got some big ones.
Oh yeah, no, there's some big ones. I mean, Jeff Foxworthy's farm, which it's here in Georgia, and it's one of the best places. It's as close to Midwest whitetail hunting as you can get.
Oh yeah.
But it's also a huge farm that is meticulously managed with a budget way more than most people have.
Yeah.
But the biggest deer in Georgia have come out of the metro area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because they don't get messed with, and that's how deer grows big. Low pressure, lots of food cover, and no stress.
Yeah.
And they don't get stressed until you get in there to hunt them, and they get real big. Yeah.
I have more problem with old does where I hunt than anything
Oh,
else.
dude, there's nothing harder to kill an old nanny doe, man.
Yes.
That's what ruined my brother's hunt the other morning. He's hunting a spot, and I think it's Hart County. He said he had a pretty good buck coming. He said he didn't get in the stand until 8:30. He said he had a buck coming. It was a group. And he's like, he had never really killed a decent deer with his bow, a buck with his bow. So he's like, I was going to shoot him. He's like, I got two. And he's like, and he said every one of those deer walked by where I walked in and never picked their head up until that doe in the back did. And he said she blew the whole world out.
Yep.
I'm like,
And
she needs shot.
They'll be walking away from me, and she'll just stop.
Yeah.
She won't throw her nose up. She'll just start blowing.
Yeah.
Not look at me.
Hate her.
And she did it to me the other day. Walked in right behind me. Never crossed my path. Nothing. All of a sudden just stopped. Started looking around. Started stomping. Her two fawns with her. Started stomping. I'm like, oh, great. She's teaching them. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's like, good job, Mama. But
I tell people that deer in Georgia were born looking up.
Yes.
Looking up in trees. Man,
Yes.
God, I hate them so much. There's nothing that'll make you madder than a freaking doe blowing. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to do forever, is do an R-rated hunting show that you just like, yep, she's going.
What was it? Is it Kip Campbell, or who was it from Red Arrow?
Red Arrow, yeah.
He did that. Have you ever seen his YouTube video? It's a clip out of what he's talking about, a blowing doe.
Yeah.
He's like, nope. He goes, I will execute on site.
Yeah.
He's like, we do not play that. I was here trying to shoot a big buck. Now you ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
So
They will. They'll ruin it quicker than anything.
Yeah.
Well, what have we not covered? What have we missed? I mean, we've been talking for an hour and a half.
We could go a lot longer.
Oh, yeah, we could.
No, man, I think it's we got through me shooting a feeder. yeah, you brought that one out of the gate, huh?
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome to the podcast, buddy.
What else did I feel like there's something else we were talking about.
Oh, I'm sure there is. I don't even remember.
I can't remember.
I had a couple notes. I actually haven't even looked at them because we just kind of
questions people have on there too.
haven't. Let me see. Let me see if anybody's asking.
If nobody's got questions, we might be doing a good job here. I don't know.
Yeah, let me see.
Or they just stop listening.
So for a guy wanting a sponsorship, a large YouTube following is most important, is what this guy's asking.
It depends on level of sponsorship. Start with a discount.
Yeah.
Discounts proving your worth, proving that you're hungry. Then you can develop those relationships, move into your free product. If you're able to get a few people on a discount, then it's kind of like getting the outdoor industry. Like, it's hard to get in, but once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
So get you a couple sponsors under your belt. The first couple are going to be the hardest ones.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anything.
Well, build a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And then work your way from there. Don't come right out of the gate saying, well, I'm so-and-so and I've got so-and-so outdoor TV on YouTube and you should pay me or you should give me free product. It's like, I can go create a YouTube channel right now saying it's Graham Johnson Outdoor TV.
Mm-hmm.
You got to build the following first. So
do you have another question was what value do YouTube shorts have?
They're getting a lot more value. They're becoming more and more popular.
Yeah, I know that's what my dad watches a lot of.
Yeah.
He watches YouTube short. He doesn't have Instagram, he doesn't have Facebook, he doesn't have TikTok, so he gets down the YouTube shorts rabbit hole.
Isn't there, I think, and I should know this, obviously, but isn't there a way where you can cross-post from Instagram to YouTube Shorts for Reels to YouTube Shorts?
I don't know that.
If not, there's probably a third-party platform that'll let you do it.
I'm
like
sure
an
there
app
is.
or something. I would say utilize them. They're growing. YouTube is growing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
YouTube ain't going anywhere for a while. So if they got something new, I would be keeping an eye on it and starting to utilize it and see how it works.
Well, here's the next question, which this might be outside the scope or not something you know a whole lot about because it's something I don't know a whole lot about. I know it's been brought up from a couple people, but, YouTube's owned by Google. Google's a very, very liberal, left-leaning organization that frowns upon everything that we hold dear.
Yeah.
What are the options if they start to demonetize anything that's got to do with hunting or fishing or shooting animals?
Well, they tried that.
They tried that with Seek One.
Yeah. It's not gone over very well for them every time. So I don't see it ever being something where they're going to completely pull it down. You know, like say, all right, no more hunting stuff on YouTube. You know, other options. Unfortunately, YouTube's a monster.
You ain't kidding.
It's a monster. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go to what's the one that Trump's got his social platform? Truth, or one of the other ones. One starts with an R. I forget what it is.
I don't even know. There's flipping many of them already.
Yeah, exactly. Stick with your 3 big platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
So that was
Vimeo is good, but like we said, Vimeo doesn't have the eyeballs.
Well, we just use Vimeo as a platform to deliver to clients.
Yeah, it's a good.
And they've got a great back end for us as creators. But that was another question I was going to ask you is, I just lost it. You were just saying, oh, my mother's calling me. Dang it.
I turned mine on airplane.
What was the,
TikTok?
No, it wasn't TikTok. Oh,
platform.
So Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook's still a big player because this is my view of Facebook. It's everybody over the age of 50 watches Facebook and looks at Facebook. It's not for the younger crowd, 45 plus, you know, but you're still seeing Facebook move the needle and be influential over Instagram. Because to me, virtually anything I look at is going to be TikTok and Instagram. I use Facebook and utilize Facebook for nothing other than posting family pictures for my personal stuff, because I don't have a personal social media on Instagram for me, just a company one. And then we have the Redneck Tech, and I use those for just business purposes only. Facebook is just where I really have Facebook for marketplace. I really have it for no other reason. So like, where do you see that falling
There's still
in line?
value there.
Yeah.
It's not completely gone.
Is it just because of Meta though?
Yeah. So my personal opinion is that when Facebook bought Instagram, they did it because they were getting their butts kicked by Instagram.
Well, yeah.
So how do you breathe new life into Facebook is you buy Instagram and then you start doing the cross-platform stuff. Yeah. So a lot of the reels you see on Facebook are actually Instagram reels. So everything's interconnected. Mm-hmm. So it definitely has value. People are using it. Yes, it is. A lot of time it's the older crowd, but there are some other people that use it.
Well, I had a friend of mine tell me that he's posting all his stuff on Facebook Watch and getting tons and tons of views on there.
These things are getting a lot more views on Facebook as well now. So,
or is it called Facebook Watch? It's called Facebook something.
It's what is it? You had to ask me.
It's Facebook something. I can't remember the exact name.
Yeah, but it's similar with all, you know. So they've taken what Instagram's done well with Reels and all that kind of stuff, and then it's tied in so tightly with Instagram now.
Yeah.
If you're going to be able to get more eyeballs, even though it may not be as many eyeballs as Instagram, why not use it?
But to me, nobody's touching TikTok. TikTok's crushing folks.
TikTok's crushing it. We're working on the tracking on TikTok. It being Chinese owned, and there's a lot of political drama tied in with it.
Yeah.
That, you know, I mean, we don't know. They could come out and shut down TikTok tomorrow. Yeah. In the U.S.
Well, they've already banned it in a couple places, haven't they?
India can't even access TikTok.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't know what the future of TikTok is.
Yeah.
Lots of views.
Tons of
views, but what's the value of the views? But it's basically taking what Instagram Reels is and putting it into a Reels only platform.
But to me, I feel like it's the algorithm's better on TikTok, because it serves like people say, you know, you go down TikTok avenues, like you'll go down, like I was in the home improvement do-it-yourself avenue for a while. Now I'm in the comedians funny videos aisle. Mm-hmm, and then when you first get on TikTok, usually it's straight TNA.
Yeah.
And that's why people scroll until they spend a little too much time on that one video that's about.
Starts to figure out what you're looking for.
You start to figure out what you're looking for, because everybody likes TNA. And then they figure out which one did you stay on longer. It's like, well, you stayed on one about old cars. Yeah. Well, I'm going to feed you one about old cars. To me, they figured out the algorithm better than everybody else. And I don't know how they. There's some witchcraftery in there.
I say there's some concerns about TikTok.
Some concerns.
Some concerns about TikTok. I want to add it to our tracking. We're pretty close. You know, we're working on it, but we do everything carefully.
Yeah.
So, you know, AI, for example, that got brought up about like, hey, are you guys going to have any AI capabilities of the platform? We looked into it. A lot of our clients are like, hey, we want no part of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's our corporate.
What are that's a good question. Not to go off track, but what are the clients asking you for? Like, what do they want that isn't here yet?
You know, at first we thought it would be like logo recognition technology, but then it was like, well, you know, that's not really adding much value.
What about product integration?
Product integration would be nice if we would be able to do it off of YouTube. I'm not saying the technology's out there. We probably can't afford the technology right now.
Vimeo has it.
You know, yeah, and I think YouTube will end up following suit with that.
Yeah.
In their own fashion.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think it's a lot of work on the back end. I don't think there's an AI tool that goes in and says, hey, that's a Matthews bow being used. I think you have to go in physically to your video and, you know, pause it, click on it, say that's a Matthews, you know, Phase 4, or that's a Sitka Equinox jacket, that's a this, that's a that.
Would be really cool if YouTube would do this, a YouTuber, if you're listening, is if in your YouTube account, you could basically have a bunch of links to all your sponsors. And then when you're uploading your video, you just go through and click that sponsor, click that sponsor,
and then
click that
and
sponsor.
Essentially you have a drop down that's like, this is this sponsor, this is this.
As people are watching, when it gets to that point, sponsor link comes up in the corner.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that'd be great. But
well,
you know,
I think that's because we talked about this 10, 15 years ago when we were talking about TV, and like where we always as creators, we want it to go to product integration. We don't want to have whore outs. Mm-hmm. We want it to be, you know, we want to get rid of those logos and those intros and all that. We want it to be about the story and about using products and being in the field. Mm-hmm. And we always said, you know, think about what that would look like, not only for hunting and fishing, what would that look like for women's fashion? Where they're watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians and they're like, oh my God, I love her shoes. They pause it, click on Kim Kardashian shoes. Here's where you can buy them, and here's the list of all the best prices. Yeah. There is a giant need for that, don't you think?
I see there's a value in it. The problem you're going to run into is if you look at your YouTube videos where you've got a hunt, right? What are most people doing? They're clicking, they're fast forwarding to the kill shot.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, no offense, they don't want to listen to the story. They're going to go right to the kill shot and move on to the next video.
Ain't no offense to me.
It's just the way it is.
Oh, it drives me insane.
You know, so if you're doing it that way, you're missing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I think it's important that even if you're posting your videos of your hunts and all that, and that's all great, then post a product review. Post an unboxing. Like, hey guys, today we're going to talk about this new arrow, you know, and then I'm going to go shoot it. Oh, and here it is being used on a hunt.
Yeah.
You know, people want to see it in the real world action, but make that video specific to that product.
What do you think though? Like, so I think the whole platform or the whole delivery system has changed. If you could create that AI or that platform to where you could click on product integration, that would probably either get rid of or limit majorly having to watch ads.
Yeah, they're always going to have ads.
I know they're always going to have ads.
Yeah.
But essentially, if you could choose as a creator, would you rather have clickable links in the video or ads?
But the problem is YouTube then's going to run into a conflict of interest.
How's that?
Well, because if they're having these people plug it up, you know, product stuff throughout the video, but then they're showing a conflicting brand as the ad, and YouTube's responsible for posting that ad. Mm-hmm. And I say I'm Matthews. I run ads on YouTube. You know, I've got
they do that now.
I know, but I've got one of those sponsors, and then so not that YouTube would probably care.
Yeah, no, YouTube don't care.
You also have to ask your point. At what point is it too much?
Oh, I agree. Well, here's what I'm saying in terms of the YouTube thing. I mean, heck, YouTube could have its own shop to where you could buy it all through YouTube, and then they're making money as a distributor too.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of ways of doing it to where it's not a conflict of interest, and the company gets paid, YouTube gets paid, you get the ad revenue, and you get the views.
Yeah.
It's technically helpful. You know, we're just kind of spreading the wealth between everybody.
I think you're going to see a lot more changes with YouTube when it comes to this kind of stuff, because YouTube's still just serving up ads. Yeah. You know, that's the way it's been done forever. You know, I don't think, like, you see a lot of companies with QR codes in their TV ads now. Mm-hmm. Come on. I don't buy that. That's going to work. Why am I going to pause my football game to scan a QR code?
Yeah.
Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the best thing for listeners, anybody who's doing this stuff, content, influencer, marketing, whatever it may be, is be real. You know, don't be too flashy with the, oh man, this broadhead, I never lose a deer with it, whatever. Be real. You know, do a product review video. Don't tag all your sponsors and everything. You know, authenticity is probably the most valuable thing that any one of these people can bring to the table.
And very few have it anymore.
Yes.
Very few.
Yeah.
You know, I think that social media has created that, because I think to be authentic is to have to fail occasionally, and people don't want you to know their fail. Because, I mean, Instagram and Facebook is a highlight reel of people's lives. It's only the good stuff. You don't get to see the bad stuff.
Nope.
And if you do, it's usually faked. It's some girl crying after she got broke up with. Who turns on their phone and cries to their phone to post it on social media? Nobody with a sane mind does.
No.
So the only thing you're seeing is the highlight reel of someone's life. You know, we only post stories when we're in cool places with cool people.
Yeah.
We don't post them when we're sitting back here editing a reel for the 37th day in a row. You know, which we could.
That's not cool.
But that's not what people want to see. They want to see the grand and glorious things, you know. And I don't think a lot of people take that into account. And like it's hard for, you know, young guys that are wanting to go hunting and fishing and trying to compare themselves. Like I about went crazy this year because I didn't get to go on an elk hunt, watching everybody post pictures of dead elk. Yeah. Like really, really giving me major FOMO about not getting to be out west. And then now I look at it as, you know, I got to raise little girls in this world that are going to see all this other crap that these girls are posting. They're going to compare themselves to, now there's AI models that are, I had to show that to my wife. She didn't know what that was. And I'm like, she's like, how do you know that's AI? I'm like, because that woman is perfect. There's not a single flaw on that human being. And she's like, well, how can you tell? And I'm like, well, just look. And I'll zoom in. I'm like, look, this is an AI generated image. Yeah. And that's what my daughter is going to have to compare herself to. Yeah. And she's going to, even though she shouldn't. Yeah. She's going to. And, you know, and that's going to change the game. You know, this TNA, you know, with these real girls, I mean, they're going to have some value, but hey, if I can get this AI generated model to promote my camouflage or my bows or my whatever it is, yeah, they're a heck of a lot cheaper than Suzy Q is, you know?
I'm not letting my kids have social media until they're like 18.
Dude, yeah.
I work in it.
My
like,
10-year-old is wanting the phone real bad right now, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. No. I just can't. I just can't bring myself in good conscience, and we fight about it. Not fight about it, but she doesn't understand why. And I'm like, baby, listen, you don't understand a lot. I was like, I didn't understand a lot of things when I was in my 20s while my parents did some of the things they did. Trust me, it's for your own good here. Yeah. Well, she doesn't get that.
I know a guy that knows somebody that works somebody at Meta. Maybe like, all right, look, how do I lock everything down so all he can see is like these two people? Yeah. On social, and nobody can find them.
All he can see is people holding fish and big deer. That's all I want to see.
How do I circumvent the algorithm?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, dude, cool. Hour and 41 minutes of good stuff.
Is that the longest one ever? Probably not.
Probably pretty close.
We could probably keep going.
Oh, we could. Well, what we'll have to do is we'll just have to do a part 2. You know, go back and listen to it and figure out what we didn't talk about, what we need to talk about.
To what people want to hear.
The good thing is you're just right down the road, so it's not that it's a big deal. Come back up here to the office, and hopefully we'll get one of the ideas.
Bring Paul out here with us.
Make Paul come out. Yeah, I need to do a podcast with Paul. Paul actually would be a really good
person to be a podcast.
And he's not too far away. Bring Paul up here, and we can ask him some of those good questions. But that's
like the answer, but
yeah, exactly. Well, dude, I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
And we are going to sign off here.
All right.
Hi, guys. Peace.
See y'all.